crunch, bring it back, single leg swing. Let me teach you how to wrestle. Okay. Let me teach you how to wrestle. Hit the...
All right, and we're live. What's going on?
Hey, good morning.
All right, Frank, so we had a really good talk over at the Olympic trials. Man, that was awesome. Just the best of the best wrestling. Well, let's start there. What were some of your favorite matches at the Olympic trials? I know it's like 2 weeks removed, but it's like, man, that was just such an awesome event.
Okay, so, it is, first thing I want to say is congratulations to all of our USA, wrestlers that went, competed, and won, and all the ones that didn't win, that were there, that were competing. I mean, it's what it takes to get to this level, and then to show up and to have to wrestle for your chance to represent the United States. And then of course, the Zane train, and also Spencer Lee had to then also travel to Turkey. I mean, you did a little piece on that as well. That was like not what we really want to have our athletes doing. We should find a way to rectify that and make sure we qualify all these weights way ahead of time. So then they can just like dial in what they have to do for the next, month and a half, whatever it is, to, I think it's August, right? And Paris Olympics.
Yeah.
That's right around the corner.
Oh.
Great. That being said, yeah, it was one of my bucket list things to do, go to, Olympic trials, of course. This is where we get to see, how things get done, and you see the nitty gritty and what these guys go through. It's insane. I mean, some hard cuts.
Yeah.
Some people look like they were dying even the day before, which again, we talked about this. This is something I think we need to rectify in the wrestling community as well. This is part of why I'm out talking about nutrition. This is part of why I'm really interested in trying to leave a different kind of concept about nutrition, how to prepare. Specifically, though, I can mention a couple of matches that were insane. Jordan Burroughs first wrestling the guy from Penn State. Now that kind of got crazy. But Jordan took care of his business. Loved it that, he's out there. He's like such a icon for the sport. He's done so much for wrestling. Got to give kudos to Nolf. What did he do? He came out and did a blast double on him right in the beginning. Crazy. Right? It was just nuts. And then able to shut him down and hold off. And wow, what a great match for Nolf, right?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. And to see Burroughs get taken down with the double, it's like he was on the receiving end there, which, could happen to anyone, of course. Yeah.
Exciting. And then I guess my biggest surprise was seeing Dave Taylor get beat by Brooks in the final. I mean, that was pretty much a foregone conclusion. David's just going to take care of his business, as he always does. But hey, Brooks had a great NCAA, of course. And then he came and followed that up with a tremendous, matches there at the trials. But so those have got to be the biggest matches for me to watch.
Oh, they were awesome. There's so much good wrestling in such a short period of time. And we linked up over at the Fan Fest. So talk about what were you doing over there?
Well, I was hanging out with Lorraine, who's the hospitality lady there at USA Wrestling, and she's such a she takes care of everything. And I was in the VIP section. He says, "Hey, let's go over to Fan Fest," and I got to go check it out. And that's where I ran into you guys. Now we had talked. I think we had kind of texted back and forth before then. And I said, "Hey, I'll see you there." And so it was great to see the booth and see you guys. And you guys always put out this great positive energy, and listen, everybody at this level knows how to technique. They have their technique. They can shoot a single, a double. They can defend. They can do leg wraps. They can do all this stuff. The key is who's going to show up mentally. The mental piece is such a profound piece. So you got to have it. You got to have it there. I don't know if you noticed, but just about every other sport in the country, in the world, they have sports psychologists now. And it makes what a difference. I can't tell you how many. I'm a big tennis fan, so I'm watching how this is, a lot of these ladies are struggling emotionally, mentally, and they have to go to somebody like a psychologist, a sports psychologist, as well as other players who just want to improve. I know that Djokovic does. I know that he works on his mindset tremendous amount. It's a big part. He also is dialed in on his nutrition like nobody else. He's dialed in on his stretching routine. He's dialed in on just his meditative and kind of quieting the mind, and knows what he has to do in the moment of the power moment where it's going to come up to a win or loss in just a point or two. So mindset, I'm all about you guys. I'm all about this being a major piece that needs to be with every wrestler that we're, starting in young, because, you develop those patterns. I realized that I felt like I was a really good athlete. I didn't have the psychological component. I think I could have gone so much further in all my athletic endeavors with that component. So key piece.
Oh yeah. And I think this is something both of us we really shared an agreement here with this about, of course, like the technique is like none other now with, flow wrestling and all these, all the wrestling videos that are out there. I mean, now videos goes back to how far we were looking at it. They don't have videos now. It's all the MP4 files, but they have, like, the technique is pretty much squared away. Strength training, pretty much everyone does that. Go to a pretty good strength coach. Seems like nutrition and mindset, as well as, I would also say, probably like the rehab and prehab, rest and recovery. I feel like we're at the brink, because people are working on their nutrition. People are working on their mindset. People are working on the restorative, the rehab, the prehab. But like we're getting ready to see the explosion with that. So yeah, I wanted to hear more about some of the things you saw with nutrition. We spoke a lot about the guys cutting weight and a lot of people being sucked out. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, like for the last over 4.5 years now, I've been working with Nick Suriano, and what a tremendous athlete, what a talented, gifted, wrestler. And he was willing to do whatever it took nutritionally. And he was one of the cleanest eating, smartest, nutritionally, responsible athletes that I've ever worked with. And so part of the reason I was at the Olympics is I just have to, shout out to Nick and his dad. It's been a tremendous ride. We won the NCAAs, a couple of years back. And so part of what we worked on is we created this new dietary understanding to be a fat adapted athlete. Right. And so why is that so important? Because, if we look at what's happening in the world of sports and everything, some of the highest level of cyclists, they're at the Peloton and Tour de France. And guess what they're being powered by? They're being powered by ketones, ketone esters. And so 60% of the peloton 60 to 80% is being charged or powered by this concept. Now, so these guys, that's got to be one of the hardest sports, I think, a demanding event, 28 days, little rest, you're sprinting, you're climbing mountains, very little time for recovery. So how are they doing it? Well, they've caught on to this. And so we had been working with this concept. And why? Why do I feel like this is kind of important? Well, the old concept was like, we're going to carb load right before an event. Well, what happens when you carb load? You get, a lot of, amazing amount of sugar dumped into the system. So that energy lasts for a very short amount of time, because then you'll spike and then you'll crash. Right. So now you don't have an even source of energy. So you better hope that you win that match very quickly, and you're not going to be taken into third round or overtime. If your energy is going to be depleted, it's not going to be there. And when your energy is not there physically, it's not there mentally. So we have to look at other ways to feed the body, feed the brain, and to feed it so it stays at a nice even tempo. So now you have carbohydrate loading. You're going to spike, you're going to crash. It causes inflammation in the system. So we don't want inflammation in the system. The byproducts are toxic. Your body has to process those. It feeds bacterias, viruses, feeds cancer. It suppresses your immune system. It dysregulates your hormones. These are just a few things that, this is okay. So it also sets you up for injury. And I've talked about this in other podcasts, but when you have excess amount of sugar in your system, that sugar looks for receptor sites. The receptor sites that it likes are protein receptor sites. And so when it finds it, it locks onto it, and it creates what we call a rigid bond. Now you've got a rigid bond in your muscles. You get enough of those rigid bonds in your muscles, now you have adhesions. And now when you do an explosive plyometric movement, the muscle doesn't stretch and snap back. It's rigid, it just tears. And so now you have an injury. I actually see this in the holiday season with my patients that would call me in the morning and go, Frank, I can't move my neck. And I said, well, what'd you do? I just woke up this morning. I didn't do anything. Did you work out? Did you? No. I said, how much sugar did you have yesterday? Oh, well, it's holiday season. They brought over a plate full of cookies. I had 9 cookies yesterday, and she can't move her neck. So that's how quickly sugar can impact your body's performance. So when people are dumping a ton of sugar into the body, and when you get into this high fructose corn syrup, which is, to me, it's a toxic sugar. It just does damage and throughout the whole system, dysregulates your gut, which is another key thing that you have to support in your whole process. So these are all the things why I'm thinking, like, why aren't we looking into this, understanding that you can kind of teach the body. You have to teach the body. It's like it's a muscle. It's a different muscle. You have basically 2 primary pathways of energy. One is from ketogenic, which is where you break down fat for energy. The other one is glycogenic, when you break down sugar for energy, or carbohydrates break down into sugar for energy. You need to have both of those functional. And you need to teach the body how to burn fat for energy to really make that pathway work properly. And it can be done. And that's what Nick and I did for 4.5 years. And he held his weight much better when he was doing this, and his energy stayed strong. He would get stronger throughout the tournament because his body wasn't crashing. The other thing is that we know that one of the primary things that causes aging is insulin spiking and then crashing, spiking and crash. So this is exactly what we're teaching our athletes, right? We're actually teaching them to do this. So they're going to continue. What are they going to do after wrestling?
Right.
They're going to continue the bad behaviors, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. And we know Nick Suriano has remained consistently harsh throughout the years. So he's been tough the whole way through. And like you said, it feeds back and forth. The mind, the body, the nutrition, it's all together. We all know what it's like. Insulin spike, carbo crash. You're all mentally weirded out for the next hour and a half. And like you said, then you could get hurt. So it all ties together.
Yeah. So if you think about fats and healthy fats, this is the key part. Got to have healthy fats, not the trans fats. So that means you can't go down to a McDonald's or someplace like that and have French fries, a burger, and a shake. This is not where you're going to get your healthy fats. Those are trans fats. Those are going to disrupt the body. They're going to be in your system for probably 58 days if you have one thing of French fries. That fat takes that long, and it's a half-life. Takes a long time to break down and get out of your system. But when you bring in healthy fats, like avocado oil, olive oil, avocados themselves, walnuts, seeds, other nuts, grass-fed butter, kefir. These are all great, not kefir necessarily, I should say. It's the fat that is just fat, but no dairy in it. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, kefir is like a probiotic. So what you're looking at is that healthy fat does several things in the body. It goes into the body. It is the foundation. It is the raw material for all your steroidal hormones in your body. So all your testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, estradiol, all your steroidal hormones are conjugated in the liver from that raw material. So that's going to be important. You're going to want to have, hormones, your testosterone. This is what's going to drive the body, make you more aggressive, help you heal, all those things. It also protects every cell wall integrity. Every cell in your body, it helps protect the cell wall integrity, prevent bacteria and viruses and other things from penetrating and getting into the cells. It feeds that part of your brain that is the myelin sheath that coats all your neurological pathways. So the charges go across, which called this white fatty material that's called myelin sheath in your brain. So now what happens when you don't have that, or you have trans fats and things like that? Then you have ADD, ADHD, hot spots in the brain, because it's like a wire that doesn't have a coating on it anymore. That's a live wire. It's hot in the head. So, and in your brain. So now you have these kids that can't sit, can't focus, can't concentrate. I mean, the healthy fat just continues to see and it benefits. And even if you're in a fasted state, there's 30 to 40,000 calories that your body can draw on to break down fat for energy. So now you have a dynamic, pool of energy, and it stays very stable. And there's no toxic byproducts, it's considered about 18% more efficient than carbohydrates. So let's take advantage of this. Let's teach our athletes how to have both of those pathways viable and utilizable. It just makes sense.
Right. And I guess, and that's why it's like sometimes with having certain foods, like I said, the trans fats or the processed sugar, sometimes like they'll say moderation, but in a certain sense, moderation will kill you. It's like you almost have to look at processed sugar as crack cocaine. That I'm staying away from this. I mean, I don't know. Is that your approach to? I don't know. How do you view it?
So there was a study done in Denmark where they had and the animals, the rats in this particular case, were they got them addicted to cocaine and heroin, then gave them the choice to have sugar, and 94% of those rats would go to sugar. So what this study found was that cocaine and heroin aren't as addictive as sugar. Sugar is 94% more addictive than cocaine or heroin. It's like, okay, it's just insane when we think about it. And it's to me, I think if you can also, follow some of, Dr. Mark Hyman's work, this is his thing. He just thinks this is the devil, like sugar, white sugar. Now, there's good versions, I think, that you can bring into your diet. I think there's healthy versions. I like berries as a general sense of, hey, you want something sweet, but you want something healthy. You want something that's going to have, phytonutrients in it, that's going to have some fiber in it. Then it's going to be blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. Then it's all about Then we have to really then talk about what's even more important than just finding the right nutrient is to make sure you have the right dose of that nutrient. Everything that goes into your body has what's called a hormetic curve, or there's a hormesis, where it means is in the beginning, if you're not taking enough, there's not a therapeutic impact. If you're taking the right amount, it has a therapeutic impact on the body, a positive one. And if you take too much, then the body looks at it as an excess, a toxin, and it now has to process it. The old mindset, if a little is good, more is better, it doesn't apply. It's like the most important thing, and this is what I do, is that when I work with an athlete, and this is what I've been doing for 4 years now, with elite athletes specifically, I not only find the right nutrient that person needs, but I know the right dose that athlete needs. And when we check that, we can't just, we can't do blood work all the time. And your blood work is good for certain things, but it also, your body does everything it possibly can to keep that blood work within a very finite pH. Because if you miss it by like 0.5 or more, then you could die. So your body's going to scrounge everywhere to make that blood get what it needs to feed the body and keep it in that pH range. So blood work to me is something to kind of check to make sure you're tracking properly. It can be done every now and then, but the nutrition needs to be checked more often, because you'll have a challenge. You might have a really tough week where you're not getting enough sleep. You've got some stress outside of wrestling. You've got some challenges. Maybe you're, starting to catch something. Well, you need to be, checked in on at that point to say like, hey, my adrenals are weak. Well, if your adrenals are too weak, it's not going to kick in your immune system to help protect against this little cold that you might start being exposed to. So the dynamic between my athletes and myself is that I set them up on a protocol, then I check in on them, and especially leading into a tournament, we make sure everything is dialed in, and then post, there's got to be a recovery process. This is just as important as the preparation. So like when Nick would travel overseas, I would see certain things, like the travel did certain things to his adrenals, certain things to the heart muscle, which not too many people address specifically. So sometimes after a major tournament that he's wrestled in like Turkey or someplace, he's completely depleted adrenal wise just because of the travel, the stress, all the different things that he has to do, the different eating, the sleep cycles. And sometimes it was a heart and adrenals, and sometimes it was deficiencies elsewhere. So as soon as you find those, then we adjust our nutrition and then we move forward. And so this is this is something I think that we can do with our athletes leading into our Olympic athletes. Is like we need to be dialed in and checking them more specifically on their nutrition. And there's what I call the foundation. This is where you need to have these foundational pieces set before now you can push the body with nutrition. You know, there's things that drive the body. You know that like caffeine will drive the body. It can be an ergogenic aid. I like it. I like to put fat in it. I start every day. Every day I start off with coffee with healthy fat. Bulletproof coffee. I have grass-fed butter in there. I put a C8 in there. I blend it up. I usually will do what's called intermittent fasting because the body is designed that when it gets some relief and it gives it a little bit of like at least 12 hours, right? You get 12 hours of a break between meals, between the last meal of the night and the first meal of the next day. But I take it a little bit further because there is some benefit to doing intermittent fasting and getting to like between 14 and 18 hours. Because all of a sudden, certain things start to happen. After 13 hours, you start to really burn fat for energy. So now you're teaching your body how to burn fat for energy. Further on, you're starting to break down some senescent cells. And further on, you know, there's some HGH that gets produced, especially if you're training at the end of your fast. So there's these really powerful things that can happen and dynamic things to the point of they're using intermittent fasting to treat people with diabetes and resetting their insulin receptor sites. It's a very powerful way to do this. It's very easy to do too.
Yeah, I never really did this, but I feel like now would be a good time to do it, get back in shape this summer and just like lean out a little bit more. It's, you know, like you said, it's just stuff that's not really talked about, especially in the context of wrestling, like how that would help and not just for performance and just for overall health. I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of people, their wrestling careers done, but they want to be healthy. They want to be lean. They want to be fit. So these are life skills. And I feel like too much in wrestling, it's cut weight. And then you never actually learn about proper nutrition.
Yeah, it's some of the things that we do, I think, are actually really detrimental. I don't know that you can do I don't know about the flushing thing that I've been seeing lately, where they load up and then they'll flush and they'll try and drop a bunch of water weight right before they, have to, weigh in. And then so why do you want to put your body in that kind of a stress? If you do this right, and I think that you can drop these couple of pounds over a long period of time. And that's by, I like the intermittent fasting. You don't have to do it every day. You have a smaller window of food. And by the way, when you do that, it's just like you don't even have enough time to have 3 meals. So you end up doing basically 2 meals. And if you're smart about what you put in those meals, your body's just going to burn anything you don't need. And it's got those 2 small meals at the end of the day. And it's just, to me, it makes so much sense that if you can do this at a gradual rate, just be a pound or 2 within your weight, maybe 3 at the most, and then that week you lose maybe a pound or 2, 1 pound a day right before you wrestle. Your body already knows what to do at this weight. It knows how to handle, knows how to perform. But if you put this harsh cut right before you wrestle and you're trying to rehydrate and get back to performance level, just makes no sense to me. So it's like eating into matches makes sense to me. When Nick went to Pan Am Games, at one point he was going to wrestle. He was wrestling at the 134 weight, 133.7 or something like that. So he wrestled at that weight. He won the Pan Am Games. About 3-4 days before he flew down there, he was at 130. Wow. And I was like, perfect. Your body, we're not pushing. It's just happening, right? Because we're just monitoring. We're taking certain things out. We're slowly pulling out some extra, foods that can have, higher carbohydrates and higher fats in them. So now we're just going to lean it out a little bit. And so when he went down there, he was eating into the weigh-ins and he dominated. I mean, he just totally dominated. And you should have seen him after the match. He looked like he just got out of a shower. He was sweating. He was so hydrated and ready to wrestle.
That's great. What are some practical things people could be doing? I mean, what's your take on, how much coffee should they be drinking? Should they have energy drinks, if at all? Should they have creatine, if at all? Should they have multivitamins, if at all? Should they be having protein shakes, if at all?
Yeah. So that's a lot of questions. So let's go back. I'm going to take a step back and go, okay. So one of the things that I do is I work with these foundations of health. And one of those foundations is your adrenal health. You have to have that established. Next, the other one is you have to have your sugar handling as a pancreas, spleen, and pancreas handled. You have to have your liver, gallbladder functioning properly at the highest level. You have to have your microbiome functioning properly. I've run into athletes who have dysbiosis, which means that there is the tight junctions in their intestines have degraded. Now there's spaces. Now there's toxins slipping through that and into their blood, and they feel like crap.
Yeah.
And before you can put any nutrients in, before you can drive the body with any of these high performance enhancing nutrients or the caffeine or whatever it is, well, guess what? You need to establish these.
Right.
You need to make sure, and you got to. Sometimes it takes a year to reestablish the gut flora. I mean,
right.
This is where your body, your body takes it into the stomach. It breaks that down, basic components. Then it goes into the intestines. Now the microbiome, the bacteria and the flora in there, break that down to the finer levels, and then so that you can then absorb it. The small particles will then slip through those tight junctions and into the blood. If that isn't functioning properly, then you're not getting anything out of the nutrients you're taking into your body. So first things, you got to seal that. And along with, you got to make sure that you're handling the support of the insulin, receptor sites, that they're taken care of. Then the detoxification, understanding the liver, gallbladder, and then everything that you do physically puts a demand on your adrenals. And if your adrenals are, overworked and exhausted, it's the old concept of trying to beat, a dead horse. What is it? You just can't do it. You're not going to get anything. You're just going to make problems worse. So you have to have this foundation set first, and that's what I work with my athletes. First, foremost, we have to get those set. Once those are operating and performing at a high level, then we can talk about okay. I always do what's called O-ring muscle testing, which is applied kinesiology, which allows me to test nutrients for my patients, and tells me what they can handle. Like for you, maybe you can handle 3 cups of coffee, where I can only handle 1 cup a day. Otherwise, my system gets too jangled. So it all depends. Everybody's system is going to be different. So their needs are going to be different.
How do we ascertain that? Because I'm that makes sense. How do we get that information? Do we go through you to find out what our levels are?
Yeah,
because you're right.
This is what I do. This is how I get you to that next level. Is I do just phone interviews. I do what's called O-ring muscle testing. It's something I've done for 27 years. I treat patients. It's tapping into the quantum field. I know this is kind of some kind of big thing to kind of comprehend, but everything is interconnected energetically. And there is no difference between me and you sitting here and having a conversation and exchanging energy, or you're sitting here next to me. We're still going to exchange energy. We're going to learn from each other. Our energies are going to commingle. I'm going to impact you. You're going to impact me. Well, I do the same thing with my patients. I can test nutrients. I have patients that are in Israel. I have a woman that couldn't carry a pregnancy to term, and her husband and I were good friends. And I said, let's do a consultation, which I did. She had dysbiosis. That's one of those things that I just feel is at the core of a lot of times when pregnancies don't go to full term. We put her on a product. We took her off a bunch of foods that were aggravating that. And then 2 months later, she's pregnant. They have a baby now. It's about 2.5 years old. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. So I've proven over the last 27 years how effective this is. And I can tap into anybody if they're in, local or in a distance. Now, the other thing is, you got to pay attention. You got to tune into your own body. So you eat something and you don't feel good. What did I eat? It's what was it? Was it like the Pepsi I had with that meal, or was it that had gluten, or did I have corn and gluten? I mean, so first things first is you got to clean your system out. And one of the things I do is I talk about what's called the pro-inflammatory foods. You got to stop doing pro-inflammatory foods. Now, when I used to do blood work, and I used to send my patients to this place that they could do blood work, and it would pick up every little kind of response reactivity that you could imagine for any kind of food. So it would like any kind of food that would cause them even sensitivity. It didn't even have to be an allergic reaction. So I did that for a while, and it cost about $1,000 to get that blood work done. And Cyrex Labs does a beautiful job with that. If you really want to do a deep dive, they will give you all the reactive, cross-reactive foods that you need to avoid. What I found is that there's about eight foods that over 90% of the people that I've ever had in my office test negative for. And those are gluten, soy, dairy, corn, peanuts, sweeteners, artificial sweeteners, and for some people, eggs. So I have people go like, well, I went on a gluten-free diet. And I said, great. Did you remove the gluten? I mean, did you remove the dairy? Did you remove the corn? Did you remove any peanuts? And it's like, no, well, those are all cross-reactive. They're the same kind of a protein that your body can't break down in the gluten molecule. So you can't do it in the casein molecule. You can't do it in, these other areas. Those are cross-reactive foods. You have to take them all out. You got to clean it up. And once you do that, and then you start introducing new foods to your diet that you might consider like, I want to see how we respond to it. You'll know. You just don't feel fed. Like if I go to eat at a fast food restaurant, which I
The time is now to take your mindset to the next level with Wrestling Mindset. Make sure you go to our website, wrestlingmindset.com, and sign up for your free trial session today. Don't wait any longer. You want the mental edge right now. When you sign up for the free trial session, you're also going to get a copy of our free ebook, Building the Predator Mindset. This book has helped thousands of people build confidence, relax under pressure, get motivated, and build mental toughness in wrestling, school, and life. Make sure you sign up for your free trial session today.
rarely have in the last like 30 years, but every now and then I'm on the road and there's nothing. I got to stop and eat something. I don't even do that anymore because I just pack my food because I've walked in, I've ordered a food, something off the menu. I've eaten it and it was like, I feel crappy. There's no nutrition in this. I got nothing out of it. It's a negative. It's just an overall negative, meaning it took more energy for me to process this. I got nothing out of it.
And if you're used to the intermittent fasting, you could say no to your hunger.
Yeah. So, and then the other piece of that is like, well, if I do like a plane flight and I'm just going to be 5 or 6 hours, then I'll do what's called ketone esters. And so if you take ketone esters, then you got 5 or 6 hours where your body doesn't need nutrition and your body gets fed. So now you've got the brain food, the body food, and energy, and you're not going to need any of that junk that you're going to be seeing in the airports.
Where do you get those what are they? Ketone esters?
Yeah, I'll send you a link. There's lots of them out there, but I have one that I really like. So it's going to be Ketone IQ, but I'll send you the specific link so you guys have that. And that, by the way, is what the Peloton is, 60-80% of Peloton is being fueled by. So that's a beautiful thing, right? And then there's all sorts of ways that you can, work around. But like you said, I like bulletproof coffee. You can usually get. Now the trick is being mindful about what kind of coffee is also important. There's over 90% of the coffees out there have mycotoxins or mold in it.
Yeah, because I'm just getting like the K cups from Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks that are just going in.
Yeah,
probably not the way to go.
There's other companies out there. Just do like a Google search and go mold free coffee, and there's about like 6 to 8 of them. There's beautiful, and there's several of them that do those K cups, by the way. And so they have no mold or aflatoxins in there. So,
that's important.
Yeah,
and
it's key. So what happened? What is that about? So this is why David Asprey created bulletproof coffee, and he created mold-free beans. So you can also do his bulletproof stuff. One of his brand new brand of coffee is called Danger Coffee. It actually has fulvic and fulvic minerals in it. So one of the things I do besides putting butter in my coffee, I also put Himalayan salt in there because coffee can deplete some of your minerals. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when I do bulletproof, I always add, a pinch of salt in there, and it adds to the flavor, adds to the mineralization. There it is. He's already got it in there.
Is this? Is this, hold up, I don't know if this screen pops up. Is this the kind of thing? Is this like a K cup?
So that's his bulletproof coffee. That's his original. But check out his Danger coffee. You see, he's got them in K cups right there. Danger coffee. There it is. David Asprey. That's your guy.
Let's see. Okay, so I got to be getting this. Is the kind of stuff I got to be getting instead.
This is what I would go. I mean, and there's several. Like I said, there's several brands out there. He's one of them. And, you know, he's done what they call, he's been a biohacker for years. And so I don't know if you know the whole story, but it's a wild story. We'll talk about it sometime. I don't want to take time today.
Because I've been having my coffee. I have my coffee, and then what I do is I normally put muscle milk in they just you get from the store. So like that's my creamer. But maybe that's probably not the best way to go. Didn't you tell me something about I should probably not stop after you eat dinner? Don't eat anything the rest of the night, and then try not to eat until as long as you could go, 11:30 or noon or something like that.
So that's your intermittent fast. You know, so you just finish your meal, dinner at night, and then you wait 14 hours, and usually, your next meal midday. Or if you finish early in the night, then it's just do the four. It's like as soon as you hit 14 hours, I think that's great. You can do 14 to 18. You can extend it if you want every now and then. It's important to, I think, vary it because your body will get used to whatever your body, whatever you present it with.
But if you do the 14,
mix it up.
But if you do the 14, you should start losing weight.
Listen, if you're eating smart afterwards, yes. Yeah. If you're not, no. And what happens is then you're presented with this smaller window to eat, and you really don't have time. It's almost like, oh, I got to eat again. No, I'll just have a lunch and I'll have dinner. That's it. And you feel very satiated.
What would you start with to eat? Would you have would you do eggs to start with? Like eggs and on a sandwich on Ezekiel bread and spinach?
So
I have that a lot. I have eggs. I put them on the pan, cook them right on the stove, and then I'll put some adobo on it, which you probably don't need to even have. I put spinach on top. And I have Ezekiel bread, like the muffins. Is that good? Or I don't know.
The muffins and Ezekiel bread was probably going to not help you lose the weight. And if you just do something like if you do spinach, onions, you can do asparagus, you can do broccoli, as a saute, mushrooms, onions, that along with your eggs. You can do avocado with that. You can actually do bacon if you're not, but you got to do
turkey bacon
free, turkey
bacon, right?
Turkey bacon. I'm not a big fan of turkey bacon, but
really? I thought that was a big difference between regular bacon and turkey bacon in terms of health. No, huh?
So it all depends on number one, where it's sourced. Like I said, no hormones, no antibiotics ever. Look for that when it says no hormones, no antibiotics ever.
Usually Trader Joe's usually probably a good place to shop or not.
You can just look for organic, no hormone, no antibiotic, no nitrates, no sulfites. Okay. And then don't overcook it. If you cook it to the point where it's got the caramelization on it, you have to do it with a lower heat and a slower thing. Make sure that it's cooked. Make sure that it is cooked, but don't overcook it. Same thing with the eggs. Don't overcook the eggs. That's a delicate protein. I always do over easy or a light scramble, keep it soft.
I like it. I'd rather be soft.
If you're going to do any dairy, I actually do some dairy, but it's going to be sheep or goat. So I'll have a little bit of goat cheese. Or I'll have a yogurt, sheep yogurt with berries and nuts and seeds. So that could be one thing you can break the fast with. The other one is if you're doing a long fast, you don't want to go heavy proteins. You want to do something like I just said, sheep yogurt, some seeds, some nuts, and some berries.
Well, to start, I'd rather do the bare minimum fast. So if 14 is the low number, I'd rather start with that than 18. If I get away with 11, I'd rather 11. What's the minimum time you could fast just for a starter to get going?
So the first thing you want to do is allow at least 12 hours to get just time out for your gut and your digestion, right? That's the first step. Then you go to let me try, 12 hours. Let me try 13 hours. See how let's go to 14. And then you're in this window where you just sort of slowly extend it. And
just about every day you try to do it. Just
about every day. And you can switch it up. Like one day you eat breakfast, one day you don't, 2 or 3 days in a row you don't, or you go for, 13 hours the first time, you do 18 hours the next time, you go back down to, just having a bite to eat in the morning, all of that. But what did David Asprey find is when you start your day and you're having any kind of food, especially if you have carbohydrates, within a couple hours, your body's hungry again. So you're going to be it's spiked, it's crashed, now we're eating again. So if you do the intermittent fast and you do it with the bulletproof coffee, now you're satiated. You're you've got healthy fats that feed the body, feed the brain. See, that's what caffeine does is it mobilizes fat in the body for energy. So it's a great ergogenic aid. I like doing it right before I work out. If you ever get a chance to do that, do your coffee with healthy fats. It's already there. It's bioavailable now, especially if you do just C8. Now, some people do MCT oil, which is like coconut oil. Now it's more refined into MCT, and then it goes more refined into what's called C8. If you do C8, it's suggested in the studies that if you do C8, even in the face of carbohydrates, your body's still going to go into ketosis and burn fat. So it's like, I don't know if I buy that completely, so I'm not going to rely on it. I'm not going to have like French toast and my bulletproof coffee together. I am going to have my bulletproof coffee. I'm going to wait. If I can train at the end of that fast, now you're getting even more dynamic results, because now you're going to activate this whole process of producing HGH at another level, human growth hormone. That's your recovery. That's your strength building. That's your tendon and ligament strengthening, all of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could just, even from just talking about this, I got a lot of holes in my knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge, big time knowledge gaps with a lot of this type of stuff. They don't always teach you this stuff in school, even if you're going for nutrition and exercise science, unfortunately. But yeah, so I mean, can you have the coffee right away when you wake up in the morning, or do you have to put that off? That's part of the fast.
No, it's been found that you can do coffee as long as you don't put in, like you said, any kind of a creamer. Anytime you put a dairy in there, now you changed it. Now you change the dynamic. Now, because butter is mostly fat, it doesn't spike your insulin. Anything that's going to spike your insulin will throw you out of your fast. So
butter's fine. You put the butter in the coffee, and what'd you say you put? And what else do you put it in the coffee? I got to start.
Yeah, C8 or just go look for brain octane. So on the site where you just went for bulletproof coffee, you went Danger Coffee. He has a thing called brain octane, you only need like 2 teaspoons in your coffee, brain octane.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, see it, bulletproof, brain octane.
So that's called C8. That's pure C8. And that's just the refined version of the MCT oil to that point.
Okay.
Great stuff, right?
Would you put in cinnamon for taste or no?
I tried that the other day, and I usually like cinnamon on a lot of things. And that also is supposed to help with blood sugar, but it's like, it just kind of messed it up for me. I didn't like it. So it's up to you. Can you do cinnamon? Sure, you can do cinnamon. Cinnamon won't spike the insulin. So anything you can, if you want to add turmeric, you can add turmeric. You want to add some bone broth will then give you energy or add calories, so then you'll be out of your fast.
Yeah. And should we be having like the bone broth? I've heard about that before too.
It's a great thing to add, especially to these kids that are like, I don't want to eat anything. So you just add it to their soup. We should put some bone broth in the soup.
Should we? And I'd assume also we should probably be eating seasonally and probably getting most of our vegetables and fruits probably from the local farmers market, or no? Is that?
Oh, baby. If you have that opportunity, of course. And I always go with.
To do which? Both? What we talking about?
Eating seasonally, go into your farmer's market. Absolutely. I mean, you're going to get the freshest foods there. It's like, I remember going to farmer's market in Pacific Palisades, and I'd come back and that food would last in the refrigerator. If I went even to a really nice upscale grocery store, I could tell the difference. There's something about them picking it, bringing it to market, and you get it as fresh as you can, especially if you have your own grow. If you're growing your own vegetables or whatever, you can walk in the house with fresh vegetables or leaf lettuce and things like this. Fantastic. But so,
yeah.
You just have to be mindful. You want to eat organic whenever possible. You want to eat grass-fed beef. You want to line-caught fish. You don't want to do the ones that they say are sustainable in
like the farm raised. You want to have the wild salmon.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
What's this? What's going on here?
Who is this guy?
Who's crashing the show? I don't see it.
We've been talking about Nick and his nutrition, and I'm glad he's decided he's going to be able to join us. Apparently, you guys we're also going to try and get him on a podcast and really kind of catch up and find out what he's up to these days, where he's headed, what he's done, and like I said, it's been a joy and a pleasure working with Nick on his nutrition. And you and I have talked about the mindset aspect. Nick also is very focused in the mindset area. Let's let him, just do a little piece if you're up for sharing a little bit, Nick.
Yeah.
Hey, Frank. Zannetti Bros, thanks for having me on. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
All righty. Well, first up, you got it.
No, I was saying, on what day of the week do we happen to be on? And this just happened to work out this way.
Hey, buddy. It's Happy Handsome Tuesday to you, too. To us
Likewise.
all.
Likewise.
It's really cool to be on. And definitely want to talk about championbydesign.com.
Awesome.
Mindset matters. Mindset makes the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were just talking about it that like obviously technique, you see it like it's all over the place. You get technique, strength training. That's something that's obviously much more mainstream now, but I still feel like nutrition, mindset, and like the rehab, prehab stuff, it's the recovery that's like on the cusp of really taking off. So Frank was just hitting on a lot with nutrition. We started getting into like the nitty gritty, some of the stuff you were doing, some things everyone can do to improve. And now like we were talking about yesterday on the phone, Nick, that obviously these guys need to inundate themselves with mindset. That is one of the big missing links in wrestling. And we're big advocates of all of it. They should be doing everything. They need to be getting and I'd love for you to talk more about your app, Champion by Design. They should have a mindset coach, one of our mindset coaches. They need to be doing all of it. Nutrition, mindset, the whole shebang. So talk about a little bit with what you do.
Right. I think it all ties into creating your life by design, through the diet, through the mindset, through the drills, through daily practice, whether that's journaling or wrestling. It all ties together. And that was something that Frank Shute himself really helped me with the past 3 to 4 years plus, is to help me redesign my life, the character I perceive myself as, how I want to feel on a day-to-day basis, what habits aren't working any longer. The uniqueness about Champion by Design is it integrates physical, emotional, and physical imprints through the meditation. It is an app. There are guided meditations. There are binaural sound waves and frequencies to get the user to be deeper into their subconscious mind and not their egotistical brain. And by tapping into the subconscious, we could imprint certain information and reach states of consciousness that can help us fulfill our life by design.
Absolutely. And that's huge. That's huge. And you being obviously one of the most mentally tough people I think American wrestling has ever seen, even from the early days. And we go back a long way. I think even when you were in 8th grade, freshman year of high school. I mean, talk about that a little bit, how mindset, this was something that I always remember you pointing to your head a lot. So as far as nutrition, obviously you're always ripped, you're always shredded. So clearly you were eating well. Frank helped you take it to the next level. So talk about that, even as you were growing up and how important mindset was, and how a lot of times I feel like people were beat even before they stepped out to go against you because they maybe didn't have that mindset.
Yeah, it's really interesting to be here today on the West Coast from the journey from Bergen Catholic, where, the Zannetti brothers, it was a thing, filling out worksheets, writing down daily intentions and goals. I carried some of those ways, not through wrestling mindset, but from that start to now by journaling, writing daily affirmations, and etc. So, I think what you guys do is really cool. And that's why I think segueing into the app Champion by Design, by wrestling at Bergen Catholic and someone like yourself seeing the progress, there's a lot more to it than just the egotistical mind. And if you were to know me, as a high school athlete, you would see the personality I carried myself with, and it was driven. It was, and those qualities still carry over to this day. But it's really understanding the emotional, mental, and physical body, and how that deeply ties into our universe and how we can be creators. And that's why I think through the sound waves, the binaural waves, the frequencies, and the guided meditations, not to mention the numerous world and Olympic champions that we have lessons from, and what we would call as snacks, all imprinting at once on multiple wavelengths, again, to get the user into a subconscious state of mind so that we can be, reprogram and get the clutter out and cut the ego And that's how we can manifest, our desires as human beings. So I think it all ties together, and what you guys do, and you guys have done wonderful things. I remember those worksheets specifically in Bergen Catholic High School, going for my 4th undefeated state championship. The Zannetti brothers were a part of that process in the room there. So again, taking things to a deeper state of consciousness, not just from the egotistical mind, but from, the spiritual body, the emotional body, and really tapping into the subconscious.
There's so many levels. There's so many levels you guys are talking about here. Like, part of this is that we've been pre-programmed by culture, by our family dynamics, by different things that we are exposed to, and some of those don't serve us. And so you need to have something that is changing what that imprint has been in the past, because it's what they call it. It's like the monkey mind, or it's a subconscious that's always running. So when you can tap into that, you can impact it, you can change it, you can reprogram it, understanding the mindset, understanding the champions by design. You should be doing this several times a day till it becomes like walking. It should be natural and flowing. And it will really help you reset, like Nick was saying, like some of those behaviors that it don't serve you. You need to identify those. You need to reprogram. The binaural sound beats are impactful. It's powerful. It's cutting edge technology. Doing what the Zannetti brothers do, which is like sitting down one-on-one consultation, consulting with these kids, and really getting to find out where their weaknesses are, supporting that. So now you have an app that you can take with you anywhere you can go. You have these guys that you can reach out. I know you have like over 100 practitioners, something like that, at Zannetti. The mindsets, got to be taking advantage of this. This is a key piece. Like Gene was saying here, like, boy, your coaches and your training, your wrestling, your working out, all of that's done on a daily basis. This has to be like right alongside that, and even maybe more often during the day, because there's never a time when your brain isn't like moving, thinking, considering, adjusting, and being impacted by things. It helps you program that very mindset that you really want. And the subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and what you image and print into it. It will do what you ask it to do by just using the right command words, the right meditations, the right binaural sounds. All of this comes together. I think it's fantastic. I just say kudos. I hope you guys just keep putting it out there and reaching even more people, because this is like you were saying, this is a piece along with this nutrition next level that needs to be addressed and continue to be supported.
Yeah, if you're going to be the total package, you need all of it. Like we were saying before, the nutrition feeds the mind. The mind is going to help make good, healthy, conscious decisions for your training, for your nutrition. It all works together. And you're right. Like, champions are you living, like, you have no choice but to think. Everyone has to think. But are you thinking by default, like ordinary people, or are you thinking like design, like champions? Are you designing your thinking, or is it just default? And too many people, it's just default, and champions live by design. That's why they need this app. And again, I feel like what we're doing is so complementary, because it's all geared towards mindset. If it seems like, and I know there's overlap, of course, but like with us, with Wrestling Mindset, it's a lot like what's going on in the conscious mind, the conscious thoughts you're dealing with. And it seems like the app, of course, a lot the conscious mind too, but also a lot the unconscious mind, what's going on, underneath the surface. And you need both. Right? What you want to be using both parts of your mind, your conscious and your unconscious. It just seems like it goes so hand in hand that these wrestlers need this. They need to be getting this app, Champion by Design, and helping them on a regular basis. They need the mindset coaching.
So one of the things I had a coach that I know really well, and I loved his little mind game that he would play with his kids. It was like when he would go to a tournament, he wouldn't let them look at the rankings. He didn't want them to know, like, ooh, here's the number 1 seed. Ooh, here's the number 2. He said, no, that's just a guy out there on the mat. You go out, you wrestle him. You've wrestled to the best of your ability. And so he wouldn't allow the kids to do that until, it just makes sense to me. It's just like, go with an open mind. You know what you have to do. yeah, if you can learn something about, hey, this guy does a lot of duck unders, don't allow him to, he takes a tie up and shoot from the run, block that. Okay, great. You can learn from that, but don't get caught up in the rankings. That's just a mind mess, with these kids, especially in high school where they just kind of let those things go. They let them get overwhelmed by it.
And Frank, Gene here. And that's the power I've discovered of intention on a day-to-day basis through the diet, doing the intermittent fasting, being able to hold off till noon, 1, 2 p.m. during the day. How has that helped change me? How has that helped keep my focus, whether it's on a wrestling mat as a competitor or just trying to stay healthy, fit, and heal? All those habits tie into intention and our daily intention. So I think journaling, things like that, worksheets are amazing, but it's really the power of intention and how that power and how the intention ties to the emotional body and how we feel. And I think that's something that Champion by Design, especially, since I started as a Tulsa National middle schooler, that's, what was it, 5th grade, all the way through high school, college, up to the Olympic trials, let alone the numerous world and Olympic champions that we have to help the mind as a wrestling champion, give something to look forward to with the binaural frequencies. And it just really gives you a unique complexion of guided meditation and intention.
How underappreciated is mindset, do you feel like, in wrestling? Like, not a lot of guys. I mean, some of the best are, but I still feel like it's very underappreciated and not as utilized when that should be like their weapon. That should be taking them to the next level. What are your thoughts with that, Nick? What do you see as a competitor? Because you're still competing, obviously.
Totally. Well, I think it's very physiological. The mind is very shallow compared to the physiological, emotional, mental, physical understanding in the human vessel. So I think it's beyond that, and I think it ties to the universal mind as well. Now, how we dictate and orient our thoughts and guide them on paper is one thing, and it's a necessity to program the brain. But I think it's the embodiment, and that's something we would call, through my learnings in Champion by Design, which has been a 29-year in development research study, by the way. It's empowerment and how it emotionally, mentally, and physically ties into the body. So it's beyond just thought. It has a lot to do with feeling and the state and the vibration of our state of being.
When I go back to what we were talking about, it seems like there's a real parallel here, because we were talking about, like, here's a ketogenic pathway, here's a glycogenic pathway. What the wrestlers have been on this whole ketogenic or the glycogenic pathway for so long, and so now we're trying to say, hey, there's another energetic pathway that needs to be as strong, if not stronger, component of our nutrition. The mindset has to be engaged along with the training, the physicality, and the other things that we need to do in life to kind of be a champion. And it has to be activated. It's like, it's another muscle. We have to have that muscle strong. If we're not, then there's a weakness in what we step onto the mat with. And so it's like, wherever your weakness is, that's where you're going to be attacked, right?
Yeah, only as strong as your weakest link.
Totally.
Awesome. Oh, great stuff. That's what we're talking about. Being, a lot of people say, I mean, this goes back hundreds of years. This is even BC, the ancient Greeks, spirit, mind, and body. And of course, there's a lot that goes into that. There's the nutrition, the rest and the recovery, the mindset, the technique, the strength, all of it, the conditioning. But how many people are actually living it? Or is it mostly a punchline or catchphrase for people? We're talking about walking the walk.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, all of us three here, sure, accomplished in different ways across the board, all of us, and it's because we're thinking about living intentionally and making right decisions on a regular basis throughout our life. So are people just saying they want to be the total package? Are they just using the word? Is the word holistic just a coaching tool to say, or are we really living that? So that's what we're saying. Like, actually walk the walk. Don't just talk about it, be about it. So at the end of the day, you got to make sure that when your wrestling career ends, you did everything you possibly could to reach your goals. You crossed your T's, you dotted your I's, you did everything. You left no stone unturned. And then you took these lessons and you applied all of the mindset and the nutrition to the rest of your life. Because we see that a lot. Then a lot of times after the wrestling career, people are out of shape. People's lives are in shambles. And it's like, hey, you had this golden opportunity in the greatest sport in the world to apply all of these lessons to the rest of your life. And you didn't do it.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you both for jumping on. I think it's great. We'll post links to everything you guys do in the show notes. We recommend all this. This is an important thing for everyone. Be the total package. Start being about it. So,
hey, Gene, I really love that insight, because I think it's all about embodying that character and how we walk in our own 2 feet in our flesh. So through wrestling mindset and what entails, I think segueing into Champion by Design, give it a look on. It's out now. There's day-to-day meditations. There's day-to-day downloads, sessions for naps, sessions to peak an athlete's state in a more of a beta frequency before a practice or for a competition. And then on the other hand, there's a theta brainwave state, which can calm an athlete to help them integrate information, relax, recover from a hard workout or championship. Have a great one. Be ready to embody what your soul truly desires out of your human flesh. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Nick. And thanks a lot, Frank. We appreciate it. We could always do it again. So
Thanks, Jane.
we'll all keep in touch, keep it in the loop. And everyone, we remind everyone to be the total package, whether it's wrestling, school, business, or life. Our mindset makes the difference. Take care.
Bye.